So I'm here to cover troubleshooting. This is probably the biggest thing, because it's one thing to know how to plug things in, it's another thing to know how to fix things and fix them quickly. Now unfortunately I can't recreate every issue I've ever had and show them to you. So I'm just going to cover the larger things, and you'll run into them and you'll be able to use what I say here to adapt. So we'll start with comms. This is the biggest issue we have. I mean, I have more comm issues than I have complaints about everything else. And the trick is, start with the headset. If somebody's like, my comm's not working, my comm's buzzing, something's wrong, go grab a comm, go grab a headset, replace the headset, replace the box. If that doesn't work, replace the cable. If the comms are ever dead, like no comms are working and both the call lights are lit up solid red, that means there's a bad comm or bad cable killing the system. Go unplug things one by one and find it working. This may not seem like that common of a thing, and it's not. It's only happened twice. But both times it's happened right before we opened. And knowing how to troubleshoot that fast is a great thing to know. Knowing, oh no, the comms aren't working, here's how we fix them, wonderful thing. Next is general microphones not working. It happens all the time. It's like there's no sound is coming out of this microphone. The first thing you have to ask yourself is the biggest problem we talked about 1,000 times in the earlier videos. Does it need phantom power? Am I using a condenser? Does it have phantom power? Go to the board, hit select, go to the preamp screen, see if it has phantom power. If it needs it, give it to it. If it's already there and it needed it, move on to the next step. The next step is to go to the cable. Is it plugged in? Is the microphone itself plugged in? I've had times where I've been, working like dance gigs, and I've been trying to troubleshoot monitors, like nothing is coming out of these monitors. And I walked over and I'm like, well, it's 6 in the morning and I just didn't plug these monitors in. They just straight up weren't plugged in. Plugging it in is the biggest step. So go make sure the cables ran. Next is the patch. This is probably a more frequent issue, is making sure it's in the right place, making sure P18 is to 16 how it's supposed to be, and it's on 16 on the board on the D-Snake. When it comes to wireless mics, you often realize, like, man, it's on 16, or there's not a 16, it's on 6. Why is there no sound coming out? And then you realize, wait, it's on D-Snake 6, not local expander 6. So always make sure it's patched right out there and patched right in here. If that still doesn't help, do an A/B test of the mic. Like if it's a 58, like a wired 58 not working, plug another wired 58 in and see if it works. If not, if it does, it's a mic issue. If not, you have a larger issue. Check other mics. Do other mics work? Maybe the mains were muted. Maybe you were mixing monitors and you had the input pulled down or something silly like that. If not, it could be a huge issue. Check the I/O. Make sure it's still patched in the I/O. Make sure the mains are patched. Go out, make sure the mains are patched out in the patch room. And just follow the signal flow. Knowing the signal flow fast is the biggest thing, because that's where your issues are. Is there a breakdown in the signal flow somewhere? It's rarely a catastrophic issue. Rarely is it there's no sound coming out of there, the speaker's blown. Usually it's panned to the left. It's usually the simplest solution that's the correct answer. Now, sometimes there are smaller issues you have to fix, like body mics. This is a big one, is live troubleshooting body mics. I don't care how much you prepare during the show. Ready?
Go.
You still have to fix issues during the show of body mics. The big one is popping. There'll be some light crackling. Maybe it's going in and out. It's a very specific sound that I can that most people in sound that work the booth can recognize. Once you hear it the first time, you realize, oh, that's a loose connection. And the trick is, have them just jiggle the connection and have the mic table power cycle the pack. The next one is a lot of low rumbling. That's usually from bad mic position. Another one, which is less common if you have a good mic crew, is there's a low signal to noise ratio. That's a fancy term, but it's fairly self-explanatory. It's how much signal to how much noise you have. Like if you have to have the gain cranked and you can barely hear them speaking, but you hear a lot of background noise, it probably means the mic positioning is bad. It means instead of the mic being pointed at their face, it's pointed outward, or it's pointed at somewhere it shouldn't be. So always, if you have trouble getting a good gain, or you have the gain cranked to like 1,000, trying to find their voice, have them move the mic position. Another one, this has only happened once. I've only had it happen once, but it's sweating the pack out. I've known this is an issue for forever, and I've never had it happen. But I had it happen on Beauty and the Beast, because our Beast had 40 layers of clothes on. Plus he was under hot theatrical lights and singing and dancing and doing crazy choreography, and he got hot, obviously, and started sweating. So if we come down here real quick, the first thing you'll notice is it's dropping out. Like he'll be singing and then the mic will just disappear. And down here, if you look at this receiver box, you'll see this green light down here. See how it's moving back and forth right now? That's actually me causing it by waving the mic back and forth. But that's because it's switching paddles. Whenever it was sweating out, it would switch left and right paddles very fast. It'll blink really fast, and then the orange light, which is the RF signal light, would bounce up and down. Like the RF signal would drop and then come back really fast. And that was it being sweated out. And you could tell when you take the pack off of him, feel the pack, and it's like, this is drenched in sweat. If that happens, talk about mic protection and ways you can stop that from happening. Merritt knows the way, and Patel also knows ways to stop that from happening. Those are the really big issues. All I can recommend is follow the signal flow. I could sit here and make a 50-minute video about solving every single problem that's ever existed in JCT, including the things like unscrewing panels because drops are dead and things like that. But at the end of the day, you should be able to troubleshoot it to one device. You should say it's a bad cable, the drop is bad, the speaker's bad, and then work from there. And practice the signal flow, because the faster you know your signal flow, the faster you can troubleshoot. And the only way to get better at troubleshooting is to have problems. That sounds like an oxymoron, but the more problems you have, the more problems you're going to be able to solve in the future. So when you have smaller plays, when you do say lies about high school, don't be afraid to take risk. Don't be afraid to try something new. Because, yeah, everyone wants a play to go perfect. But would you rather have a small play like lies about high school go wrong, or your massive spring play go wrong? Take risk. Don't be afraid to run into issues on smaller things. That way you know how to solve them later on. And if you have an issue, don't be afraid to Google it. I know for a while, box 5 down there was in some weird mode, like it had letters instead of numbers. I'll just tell you what that is. If it ever has letters instead of numbers on the pack, the wireless mic, or the box, it's because somebody has held select for 25 seconds. So you can just hold it back and it'll change modes. But it was like that, and no one could figure out what to do. So we just didn't use 5 for a while. There was like a semester where we just didn't use a wireless mic because we didn't know how to fix it. And then someone came in, Al Gilbert, Googled it, found, oh, this is the issue, and then fixed it. Don't be afraid to look things up. Just because you can't solve it with your mind doesn't mean somebody else hasn't run into this problem before. That's especially pertinent when it comes to QLab. Everyone on the internet has done AppleScript before. Don't be afraid to look up any issues. But when it comes to troubleshooting, follow your signal flow. Thank you.
Cool.
There is one more troubleshooting issue I want to look at. I didn't mention this because I forgot about it, but it's polarity. This can kill a show. Remember, if we go onto our select screen, go to the preamp, we have this polarity button. And you can see actually on some of the mics in the show, the switch is in. So this is from when actors cause cancellation with each other. Let's say you have a male and a female lead, and they sing into each other, and they're looking each other in the face. Their voice is being picked up on both mics, and it causes phase issues, meaning it cancels itself out. And you hear this weird sound. It's hard to describe. It's almost like it's underwater, almost. Or it's like there's a really bad echo that causes some of the sound to disappear. When you hear it the first time, you'll immediately recognize it, even from my poor description. And the answer there is to go here and flip this polarity switch. And let's say Sausage Girl and Hat Seller were singing into each other's mics. In theory, I should just be able to flip one polarity switch and it's fixed. But sometimes, if you unflip one and flip the other one, it sounds different for reasons unbeknownst to me because it doesn't make sense. But just try both of them. Try putting them each out of polarity one to another. This is a very big issue. and it's hard to solve. You can try to solve it with the polarity switch, but you just have to be on your game. Like, I had an issue with Belle and Maurice singing into each other, and I could not fix it with the polarity switch, or when I did, it sounded bad. So I would just go and pull one up and pull one down as they would sing. I'd have my A2 say, okay, now Maurice, and I'd pull them up and I'd pull the other one down, and I just have to work line by line that way. Polarity is a huge issue. When you hear it, you realize that's immediately what that is, and it's hard to solve. That's one of the more advanced issues, and unfortunately, it has to do with blocking. And you can ask, it can't hurt to ask if maybe they could sing away from each other or do something like that, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be able to get the blocking changed because they have to be staring into each other's face for that romantic moment. A really bad moment I had was in Beauty and the Beast, because we just did it. One character picked another character up, like, in his arms, and like talked into each other's faces. Awful. Awful. And it just comes down to blocking. And you just have to be on your game, pulling mics up and down, and just be aware. Just be aware of polarity, and be aware of ringing. You'll get better as you listen to this more. If you listen and you hear a quiet ringing under the mix, it means something is about to feedback, so pull it down. And that's really that.